Welcome to the Dental Marketing Guy Show. I'm Justin, the Dental Marketing Guy, and today I have a really renowned guest, but let me tell you, it's not even as impressive as what he's done, but where he's going. You heard it here first on the Dental Marketing Guy Show. This guy is a rising star. Spoke at the Townie meeting, met him there, got some really good marketing ideas. Can you believe that? The Dental Marketing Guy learned some dental marketing ideas from this guy. Really excellent stuff coming from Dr. John Nosti. I can't say enough about what you're doing, John, to help dentists improve their profitability, improve their positioning, improve the ability that they have to focus on what they really want out of dentistry. We'll delve into all kinds of ideas, but first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Justin. I really appreciate you having me on. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. And, just like you said, just to share the good word with all the dentists out there and just try to make, the dental community just a better place. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you're definitely doing that, man. Tell me a little bit about the history of Dr. John Nosti before he was Dr. John Nosti, why you got into dentistry, when you decided that you wanted to be a dentist, and kind of how that all evolved into now you're doing CE up the yin yang. Tell me the story of how that all started.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we all think back to high school and maybe what like a bad time that was and all the stupid projects that we had to do and teachers, made you take on. When I was a sophomore in high school, I did a career report and you walk through the library and you pick out, different books on different careers and they highlight different areas and give you maybe a 4 or 5 page synopsis of what each career does. And I happened to pick one up and it was on an oral surgeon. And it seemed to me like it was the coolest thing. Here was this guy, he wasn't really, I'll be honest with you, he wasn't talking about taking out wisdom teeth. And, at the time of, when I was in high school this year, it was back in 87, maybe 88 when this happened. So even though implants might have been, being placed back then, it really wasn't a huge thing like it is now. So the guy wasn't talking about taking out wisdom teeth. He wasn't talking about placing implants. Really, he was talking about, treating patients who are involved in car accidents and fixing facial fractures and putting people's lives back together. And to me, it just sounded really cool that, here you are and what do we know about the dentist, up until we're a sophomore? I mean, I didn't get braces, so I didn't really know about an orthodontist. I mean, I kind of did because my sister was experiencing that, but it really didn't really resonate with me. You know about the pediatric dentist, but because I went to one as a kid, but to me that was just that was an office full of screaming kids, and who really wants to be involved in that, So here you are, you look at teeth, but you're saving lives. So to me, that was just really cool. As a real young guy, going back to grade school, I was always really fascinated in the sciences and in health. But, I guess kind of being a soft-hearted guy, as much as I love medicine and the thought of, being a doctor doesn't really intrigue me, because even though you get to help people, you also have to deal with some losses as well. And, to diagnose someone with a debilitating disease or, a form of cancer or something like that, that would be horrible for me. So, here was this thing on oral surgery, and it just hit home. And from there, I kind of made a path, I'm going to be an oral surgeon. And I kind of set goals that's what I wanted to do, up until the point I was probably a senior in college. And when you do your senior thesis, I went out and I spent time in a dental office, really, several months watching and overseeing as to, what this doctor did in his office. And I told him I wanted to be an oral surgeon. And he was like, "Are you out of your mind?" He was like, "Why would you want to do that?" And I said, "Well, I don't know, just, this idea of facial fractures really, kind of intrigues me." And he just basically told me as it is. He was like, if I were you, I'd become a general dentist. It has the best aspects of anything you want to do in dentistry. If you want to do a lot of surgery, you can. He was like, you're not going to put people's faces together, but he was like, you get those calls at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning and you kind of leave your family and this and that. And he kind of just sold me on being a general dentist. So from there on, general dentistry it was for me.
Excellent, excellent. Like you said, general dentist, you can take on a lot of skills. I mean, implants, cosmetic. I was talking with Jason Olitsky over at the Townie meeting. Man, that guy's got a lot of passion for what he does. Man, it's really interesting to talk to guys like you. We had Eric Jones on the show. Dr. Eric Jones, man, that guy, he's got some stuff nailed down. He attributed a lot of what he's learned to guys like you and Jason Olitsky. You guys are all associated with Clinical Mastery, right?
Correct.
And that is, can you kind of explain to the viewers what that's all about?
Absolutely. The bottom line is there's continuing education out there and there's a lot of great groups to go to, but as a young doctor coming up, I went out and I took a ton of CE, and I was just, not to say I was fortunate enough, but I made it a point that if I was going to take a CE course, I was going to get something out of it and I was going to implement it in my office. And sometimes you go out and you take a weekend seminar and you blow $2,000 or $3,000 and you spend time away from your practice and your family. And sometimes you get great knowledge and sometimes you don't. And, one of the things that I didn't like in CE is I hated taking time away from my practice and then going to a course and having someone sell me on another course. Like, yeah, you know what? This is all we're going to give you now, but come to our next course because then we're going to give you a lot more. And, it's kind of like a bait and switch. And I hated that about continuing education because that does exist, going out and taking all these vertical courses. And then even after you take a ton of courses, not knowing really how to treat a case, it's criminal, as to what happens. So, we got together as a group of guys and gals who really love to help other people. And we love to, see ourselves in a younger version of ourselves. And, we got together and said, you know what, this is really what's missing in continuing education. It's, being able to talk to a group of doctors who take insurance, who have the questions on when patients say, what's my insurance going to cover? And how can I do this and still be profitable? And how do I do that? And, they want to take courses from people who are wet finger dentists, not from retired dentists. And not there's anything wrong with that, but there still is a different language that we talk to with patients than someone who's retired has to deal with. So, we put together a group of courses that teach everything from basics of occlusion all the way up to full mouth reconstruction, on implants, dentures, the whole gamut. It's really it's a restorative platform for you to take your practice to the next level.
So, okay, I don't know, you mentioned guys and gal, who are all the people at Clinical Mastery? Because I don't think I know all of them. And our listeners probably don't know all who's involved in this. It's a pretty big deal, I think. So who are those names?
So the directors of Clinical Mastery are myself, Dr. Mike Smith, who practices in Phoenix, Arizona, Dr. Jason Olitsky, who you mentioned, who practices in Ponte Verde, Florida, and Dr. Leanne Brady, who also practices in Phoenix, Arizona. We are basically the fearsome foursome of continuing education. And then from there on, we have a group of doctors who, we asked to join us based upon their knowledge of dentistry, and also based upon the fact that we know what they're doing in their practice. So we basically know not only can they talk the talk, but they can walk the walk. So, and that group of doctors are guys like Dr. Chris Catalano, who practices in California, Dr. Eric Farmer, Dr. Eric Jones, who you mentioned, we have just a great group of supporting doctors who really help us out. Dr. Eric Mendelson. We seem like we have like the Dr. E's. We've got a lot of Erics who are joining us on our faculty. Chad Yancheski, who practices in Green Bay. Just guys who are just passionate about what they do and are really doing it. Dr. Josh Stelzer, who practices out in PA. That's basically our supporting mentors for clinical mastery.
Excellent. Man, that's and something I learned from Chuck Liddell is to never name drop. And apparently Dr. John Nosti missed that lesson.
Yeah, I didn't learn that. I gotta give props to my, to my team. It's not just me, who's waving the flag. It's a great group of docs who I'm fortunate to be partnered up with. So I definitely want to give them some props.
Absolutely. And so let me try and pin you guys down. I don't mean to pigeonhole you, but you each focus on a certain area, right? And so when I think of Jason Olitsky, I think of the photography thing. I know he's a cosmetic dentist, but I think of photography. When I think John Nosti, at least lately, I've been seeing the word occlusion attached to it. So could you kind of tell me, like, of a few of the people, a few of the more key influencers at Clinical Mastery, what's kind of the brand? What's the focus for each of you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it is kind of funny, even though we all, treat patients in our practice, Jason is just someone, he excels at photography and he excels at, digital smile design. And, he's accredited by the American Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry, one of the youngest dentists, if not the youngest dentist ever to achieve that honor. So, he is just, you said it, he's passionate about marketing and photography, and that drives his cosmetic practice. And that's really Jason's niche. And he's used that in his practice. I'll speak from Mike Smith. I think that we built a strong cosmetic practice, but based upon function. So for years, I said that I was a functionally driven cosmetic dentist, where I kind of tout it where there's no reason to market. Even though I do market, you don't have to market when you're doing functionally driven smile designs. There's patients who come to every dental office, and those patients. Those are models that are sitting on your desk that you're like, what the heck do I do with this person? And it's someone who's destroyed their teeth due to either attrition, due to erosion, they might have GERD, sleep apnea, whatever it is. And you're talking about to these people about how do they, basically save their teeth and get back to where they were years ago. And we just use cosmetic dentistry to drive that look to satisfy the functional aspects. So Mike and I deal a lot with, reconstruction type dentistry and temporomandibular joint disorders, as does Dr. Leanne Brady. So the three of us kind of have that mix of TMD, function, occlusion, basic, where, Jason will say that his primary focus is strictly on cosmetics. And even though he does reconstructions, and even though he knows a lot about occlusion, he'll tell you that, the primary reason patients are coming to see him is for cosmetics.
That's excellent. Okay. That's really cool. And, like you said, you all have general knowledge of dentistry, obviously, but to kind of help the viewers define each of you, I really appreciate you doing that. So as far as clinical mastery, so how often, when's the next seminar? How often do you guys do this? And what are the topics? I know I've seen you on Dental Town. I don't know if it's ads or just people raving about you, about understanding occlusion. When is the next? What are some upcoming seminars, and how often do they happen?
Absolutely. So we run the Occlusion 1 course about 5 or 6 times a year. Every year it's getting more and more due to the demand. We just had one in Boston that was actually sold out. It was phenomenal. Great group of docs that we posted pictures on Facebook. Shout out to all the docs who were there. It's so much fun. The next time we're doing it is in September for Occlusion 1, and that's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. So we try to have some pretty cool spots around the country that people want to go to, or they're close to, their location's close to it. So we do like the Occlusion 1 between 5 and 7 times a year. Our next level beyond that is our Occlusion 2 course. And Occlusion 1 is Mastering Functional Dentistry, which kind of talked about before about being a functionally driven cosmetic dentist. That's where doctors really kind of learn how they can start doing that in their practice. Our Occlusion 2 is Mastering Complex Cases. And the next time we're doing that is in August, and that's in Seattle. It's going to be a tremendous amount of fun. And then our Occlusion 3 course, we offer once a year. And each year that course is offered at the end of the year, and it's in Las Vegas. So that's in November. Our Occlusion 2 course, we offer twice to 3 times a year. Occlusion 3 is 1 time a year. And then aside from that, we have some other courses where, you know, I think it's really cool that doctors can kind of take the stress out of their lives and really go not only learn, but like see a lot of really cool things happen. So, you know, when we take our Occlusion 1 course, you know, you learn about, you know, everything from how to take a CR bite, how to do a face bow, how to, what do you do with the mounted study models? How do you analyze them to come up with treatment plans? And then we talk about materials and cementation and porcelain. We talk about how to do a veneer case, how to temporize a veneer case, how to cement it, and how to occlusally finish it. So at the end of that course, start to finish, you know really how to start doing any complete exam on someone, how to start doing a complete set of records, what to do with those records as far as treatment plan, and then if you're going to do veneers, we teach you how to execute that. But maybe you're someone who just doesn't want to see it in lecture, you want to actually see it live. So from there, you can see Dr. Jason Olitsky do a In the Op course, where in one weekend, you get to see him prep and temporize one patient and then seat veneers on another patient, all in one weekend. So like really after that, after those 2 courses, you can go home and hit it out of the park and start just annihilating veneer cases in your practice. Then from our Occlusion 2 course, where it's Mastering Complex Cases, you know, there we do teach you how to open vertical dimension and how to start the prep and seat process on a full mouth reconstruction and how we start that process. And we go into splints and a little bit more about TMD, you know, a little bit more complex equilibrations. So it just takes it to the next level. And then, you know, maybe after that, we even go over a treatment planning section and talk to you about how to talk to your patients about treatment planning and case acceptance. Well, from there, you might say to yourself, again, that's really cool. You know, John, Mike, and Lee just told me how to do a full mouth reconstruction, but I want to see it live. And then you can come watch me over the course of 2 weekends. I treat the same patient where I lecture one day, and then you see me prep a full mouth reconstruction, and then we come back 3 weeks later, and then I lecture again, and then you see me seat a full mouth reconstruction. So you see that whole process happen. And I can tell you that we've been doing that for 5 or 6 years. And what you will see is that, like, you know, in lecture, we teach you, hey, this is ideal, and this is how everything should work. And then when you come see me and you see real life, and you see, you know, what happens when a patient doesn't get numb? How do you handle that? What happens when a patient has a hard time keeping their mouth open and you're planning on prepping 20 units? How do you handle that? You know, how do you handle the bite sequencing? You know, it's like a lot of things. How do you manage your patient through such a long procedure? So, you know, you basically get to see all the fun live stuff happen, you know, that basically happens to you back in your practice.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because, you know, when we were talking at the county meeting, you know, you coached, I think you said you coached like the best JV wrestling team in the country or the state or something like that.
Yeah. So basically, when I was in college, I was a assistant varsity wrestling coach to Pinelands Regional High School, and I was the head JV coach. And that year, Jackson High School was rated the #1 wrestling team in the nation, and they're in New Jersey. And my JV team beat their JV team twice in tournaments, basically outplaced them. Like we doubled our points over them. So, you know, the head coach, you know, basically touted saying that my JV coach was the best JV team in the nation. So it's a lot of fun. Love wrestling. So much comes from wrestling, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, and the reason why I mention it so people don't think I'm completely out of my mind is it's actually linear, because when you talk about lecture, it's kind of like in wrestling, like you can drill the moves, right? But then you start going live and the moves don't work the same. The first one you try doesn't work, and then the second one you try doesn't work, and then the third one makes them, maybe it might work, but then the fourth works, right? Because you do that chain wrestling, right? You link the moves together, and that's kind of how it is in marketing, right? And that's kind of how I assume how it is in clinical dentistry, where your first thing doesn't work, your second thing doesn't work, your third thing doesn't work, and you learn them all in lecture. They were all supposed to work perfectly, and now you're discouraged. So for people who want to actually get into, you know, going live, doing a real match, so to speak, where you're placing that implant, or you're doing whatever it is in clinical dentistry, and it's not going perfectly. So would you say that's where kind of the live, the getting in there and seeing it happen in the real world where things don't go perfectly, is that kind of the idea behind what you're doing?
Oh, 100. You could not have explained it better, because, you know, that's exactly it. I mean, you know, kind of what you learn in lecture is practice. It's an ideal situation, you know, and we're going to put we're going to use our ideal cases from our practice, you know, where a patient can open wide and they photograph really well, so we can show you, the participant, the example of what happens. But then we all know we get back in the real world and they're like, what is going on here? You know, and just like you said, in wrestling practice, you know, first of all, you're working out with a partner that you've probably wrestled with for a couple years or not. And, you know their moves, they know your moves. And then you get on the mat with an opponent and it's totally different. You know, that's like prepping a full mouth reconstruction. Most of these patients, at least the ones in my practice, they're people, I might have done a filling or two on them before I'm prepping them, but a lot of patients are new patients who come in and, you know, they've had single tooth dentistry, piecemeal dentistry done, and the first time I'm doing anything significant on them is the time that I'm prepping 20 units. And, you know, they might be someone who needs to take a bathroom break every 5 minutes. They meet someone who needs to close their mouth every 30 seconds. You know, there's just a lot of things that go along with it, that it's practice versus game time, and you get to see it unfold game time.
You know, I thought of something as you were saying that about, you know, person who has to go to the bathroom every 5 minutes, has to close their mouth every 30 seconds. Those might be extreme examples, but I would say a lot of people, just based on my own personal experience as a dental patient, I can say I think the dentists are into what they're doing so much, almost like an engineer or an artist or something like that. Like it really doesn't matter what's going on around an engineer, to draw a parallel. It doesn't matter what's going on around an artist. He's painting that, he's designing this, and they don't really care what's going on in the background because they're focused. As a dental patient, I can tell you there's little things that you can do that kind of show empathy for the patient, which really goes a long, long way, because it might not be clinically smart to offer chapstick in the middle of some procedure. It might not be clinically smart to say, hey, would you like to rest your jaw? Would you like to move it around? Or I don't know, if massaging or whatever's available. But from the patient experience standpoint, are there any things like that you've implemented where you find that, you know what, this has nothing to do with occlusion, but it's what the patient wants, and it shows them that I care, and now they're going to go, because they don't know if you understand occlusion or even what the word even means, but they're trusting you, and the patient experience is what they take away from that. You know, I don't think the word occlusion has ever been mentioned in a Yelp review ever, but
no, that's it. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's you know what, and it's funny. That's not an aspect that I ever thought to even that I thought about talking about, like to someone like yourself who's interviewing me about a course. But at 100%, when you're in that course, that's a huge part of what I'm going to talk about. Is, you know what? Just like you said, you have a goal in mind. You want to prep these units in X amount of time. You have a time schedule that you want to meet because you have a profit that you want to have done, or you're trying to race the anesthetic, whatever it is. And having that mindset doesn't set the stage for that patient having an awesome experience. Because I can tell you that it's super uber important. I hate to use that word. It is so important for your patient who's investing those kind of dollars in your practice to leave saying, wow, that was great. Geez, that really wasn't that bad. That was so much easier than what I expect, and knowing how to at least provide that, or even knowing how to talk patients through when it is taking longer. And you know what, maybe you do things differently in order to make sure that that patient has an awesome experience. And just like you said, there's a lot of times we take breaks. There's a lot of times that, you offer them bottled water and have the right bibs and the right towels and, straws and, something that they can eat even during the procedure if you're going to take a really long period of time. And, those are all goodie bags that they leave the office with in order to make sure that they feel great. Those are all things that you get to see live. It's just, what it is? You get to see me for a whole day do it, unlike a lecture. Just like you said, there's so many things that the ins and outs and little things that, not to say that we purposely miss in a course. It's just that you can't cover everything in a seminar, that happens live with the patient. The conversations that just become organic. You can't make that up. You can't force it to happen in a course, even though we try to role play. It just doesn't work out the way it does in a seminar, like it does in a live patient treatment course. So, absolutely. All those things that in order to make sure that the patient has a great experience is so important.
And when you say, in the beginning, you mentioned not really doing much marketing, although you do that as well. But really, the patients that you treat are walking, talking billboards, right? So when you say you're not really doing a lot of marketing, but that you do get, obviously you're busy. Are you referencing like word of mouth marketing? Are you referencing referrals?
No, both. I definitely do not want to come off that I don't market, because we market. Basically, what I don't want people to always think is that, I need to. All of a sudden, if you're not doing veneers in your office, you don't necessarily need to then, once you learn how to do it, I wouldn't necessarily say drive up your marketing to focus on veneers. I might just say drive up your marketing to focus on getting more patients, because you probably have plenty of patients in your practice who you need to market to them, and you need to then enroll those patients. And that's what I did early on in my career. Once you've been through the patients in your practice and you've talked with the people who need it, and they've either accepted it and have done it, or they're in a waiting period. Well, now you need to go bring in and replenish new patients. And you know what? You absolutely need to market. And, that's even something that, for years, my partner and I, we had a website, and that did well. But I can tell you that once we took it the next step and did some external marketing to drive people to the website, I just got off the phone with one of my friends telling him how successful our marketing has been. Not bragging, I'm just giving props to marketing guys like yourself and what you do for offices. I'm up, almost 50% this year compared to last year. And last year it wasn't like I had a down year from the year before and we had a recovery. It's literally, it's a realized 50% increase in the first, at the end of 5 months for the beginning of the year. So that's tremendous. And I have to say that, I owe it to marketing. So marketing is key to any dental practice.
Yeah. So getting new patients and then using those new patients to educate them about what it is that you're good at. You've already earned their trust enough to get them in the chair. And then you introduce the fact that I offer this, I offer this, I offer this. You know, I hear so many dentists tell this story, and I don't know how common it is, to be perfectly forthcoming, but I do know that it happens. Is the general dentist, he's doing drill, fill, and bill, and they get some veneers because they saw an ad in the newspaper for veneers, and they didn't know that their general dentist did veneers. How important is it to educate your patients about the services that you actually offer?
Justin, I can't tell you how many times that happens in my practice. Fortunately, not that people are leaving, getting treatment somewhere else, but I can't tell you how many consults I do in a year where people come in and, you know, they say, I'm here to talk with you about X. And I say, have you talked with your dentist about doing this? And, you know, there are times when people say yes, and that dentist said I wasn't a candidate, which, you know, I will tell you, there's a lot of dentists out there telling people they're not candidates for procedures that they are 100% candidates for. So, you know, definitely we want to go out and educate ourselves as to what we can do for people. That's so important. And then the other side of it is people say, you know what, I didn't feel comfortable asking my dentist because the office didn't come off like that was their thing. So, you know, if you are doing veneers, if you are doing anything, 6-month smiles, Invisalign, whatever it is that you're doing, the greatest explanation I can give with this is given by my buddy Jason Olitsky. Would you ever in your right mind go to a car dealership and you walk in a car dealership and imagine if on the walls was pictures of fountains and waterfalls and there was no pictures of cars? And then, you know, you pick up a book and you say like, oh, this is a cool book. I really like this car. You know, can I have this car here? And then the car salesman says like, well, we don't have that car, but I can get you a car like that car. It's like, how would you really feel about, you know, that car salesman? And not to compare dentistry to car salesman, but, you know, it's just an example that we can all resonate with, where, you know what, you do have to have examples of your work in your practice for your patients to see. If you don't have smiles on the wall, you need to have smiles in books. And if you don't have any documentation of what you're doing, I don't care how many times you've done it, your patients don't know you're doing it. If you have stock photography on your website that is from every other website designer, that your patients start looking around, and what's worse is they see those same photographs on other people's websites, don't think because you give them an example of what veneers look like that they're going to trust you in order to do it. You got to get trained, and you got to document, and then you have to show what you can do. And if you're not doing it, unfortunately, people are finding guys like myself or female dentists, girls out there, they're finding girls who are putting it out there and who are doing it. And, you know, it's a shame. You know, I don't want to get patients like that.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting what you said, because when someone is passionate about something, they tend to be better at it. And when someone's passionate about it, they talk about it. It's what they talk about. You know, I mean, when we're talking about dentistry, when we're talking about wrestling, you know, you're in it, and it can't be faked. I mean, it could be faked, I guess. You know, we got politicians and stuff like that in this world. But you know, I mean, the bottom line is when passion is genuine, it tends to be sustainable. It tends to become a brand. So I think the inference that patients draw is, if he's not talking about this, if he doesn't sing about this on the top of mountaintops, it's not his thing. And sometimes that means having a little confidence to ask for the support of your happy patients. I know we're coming to a close on our time because we're both busy, but you know, I was hoping, this is coming at you totally unscripted here. Yeah. You know, I'm hoping to for our listeners who want to get those before and after photos. This goes for everything. It goes for online reviews. It goes for video testimonials. It goes for before and after pictures. But they've got to get those legal releases. I don't get into the legal stuff. We just had Jason P. Wood on the show the other day. He could call him about this, about the disclaimers. But, you know, the bottom line is, I think a lot of doctors tell me, like, Justin, I'd love to get Google reviews, but I just can't ask. I'd love to get these before and afters, but I just can't ask my patients for this stuff. What are some of the tricks or tips or, you know, I'm sure it gets easier as you do it. Some advice that you can provide the listeners about, you know, to get that first before and after, to get that first Google review. How do you do that?
I love it. So, you know what? I'll just tell you what I did when I was younger. So when I took my first veneer course with David Hornbrook and the Hornbrook Group back in 2002, you know, when I came out jazzed up from that, I had already done some veneers, but I'll be honest with you, it wasn't at the level that then I knew what I could do. So, you know, first and foremost, the people you go to first are the people who trust you the most and are probably asking you to do it for them. So you go to friends, family members, you know, anyone in your inner circle who wants a great smile and needs a great smile. You know what? Do it for your lab bill. And you know what? In return, you're going to tell that person that you're doing it for cost for is that what I want in return is you're going to see your face everywhere. You're going to see it on my website. You're going to see it in publications, blah, 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 you know, and have them sign the release form. You know, start there. And you know what? Make sure you do the AACD required photographs, which are like 16 photographs, because when you have those 16 shots, that becomes 16 before and afters. And literally, you can kind of sit there and point out a couple different before and afters and kind of change them around. It could be the same case, and a patient won't even know. So you can at least show them 4 or 5, look at this, look how great this looks, and it's like one patient, you know? And that's what I did at first. And then it builds from there. So you have those people. Then when you have someone who comes in, and let's say they're an ideal candidate, and you almost want to do their veneers more so than they want to do it, because mainly maybe they have a financial issue and they say, how can I get a discount? In the beginning, you say, you know what the discount I can offer you is? You're going to sign my photo release form. So a lot of times you can cover your cost, even make some money. Might you be making your UCR fee? Maybe not. But you know what? In return, that patient, the discount you're giving them will pay back dividends on the photographs that you're going to take on them and then how you're going to use them in your marketing. And then from there, I'll be honest with you, nowadays, there's people who come in and, I mean, if I throw a number out there, if I do 50 smiles a year, maybe 10 people want to be in my smile book anymore. When I was younger, I think almost everybody for some reason wanted to. Nowadays, it's really gone downhill. But still, I have maybe 10 people who want to do it. And you know what? That's not even a conversation that I have. I start by taking all the photographs. I do the documentation. Some people will start out right away and they're going to say to you, am I going to be in your smile book? And I'm going to give you a title of a book that I think you should read and it'll change your life. It's called Change Your Questions, Change Your Life by Marilee Adams. So when a patient says to me, am I going to be in your smile book? I don't say yes or no. I say, do you want to be in my smile book? And you know what? Some people will say, heck no, I don't want any of my photographs anywhere out there. I was like, no problem. These photographs are just for documentation and for me to communicate with our lab. You won't see these anywhere. And when people say, yeah, you know what? I might, then that's someone who at the end of treatment will show them their before and afters. Then they might say, go ahead and use them. And if someone says, even better yet, they say, oh yeah, you know what? I wouldn't mind being a star. I would like to be in your photo album. Then at the front desk, when they come in for their post-op photos, you know, my front office or my office manager, you know, right before they go out the door, they'd be like, hey, listen, here's a release form. If you would like, we would love to use your photographs. And there's like basically line items on that release form that basically says, I can use your photos in everything. Or if you want, you can cross out things that you do and don't want me to use. So there's some patients who say, I don't want to see my face on any of his marketing materials to other people, but I'll let Dr. Nosti use my photographs in his lectures and in publications for other dentists. So, and they can sit there and kind of like cross off what they do want and what they don't want. And that's, you know what? Have your office manager do it. Have a girl and I hate to say girls and guys, but have a team member who talks the best to people, who resonates the best with your patients, have that person present that form to your people.
Excellent. Well, that's, man, a lot of value here, a lot of value. Excellent. You know, we got to run. I know both of us, your phone's ringing off the hook. It's all good. It's all good. I'm surprised we were able to last this long. John Nosti with Clinical Mastery. If you guys have any questions, reach out to him in the comments below, YouTube, Dentaltown, Dental Marketing Guy blog, wherever you see this on social media. Feel free to reach out. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more where this came from. And thanks once again, John, for appearing on the show.
Thanks for having me. You know, anybody wants to follow up, hit me up on Dentaltown, and I can even send you a copy of that release form that I use for my patients. Excellent.
Excellent. That's great. Okay, cool. So you got that release form from John. Hit him up. I'm sure it's only $1 million.
No, free. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching the Dental Marketing Guy show.